Hi class, this is my Module 7 reflection. And the first question is, after watching the lecture and reading the articles, describe your thoughts toward online learning at the K through 12 level. I'm very scared at the reality that online learning is going to fully take precedence over going to schools and individual buildings. Now, I'm not saying that online learning is a bad thing at all. It helps a lot of different students, all kinds of different learners. I'm taking an online class right now, and it's beneficial for me in many ways. But I feel like it's increasing so much to the point where normal classes and normal classrooms in buildings are going to become obsolete. Now, I could be crazy, and that could just be a theory, but I'm kind of scared about it. But that's on the negative side. On the positive side, there are a lot of positives. There are people who have social anxiety, test taking classroom anxiety. I know people who could take a test on a computer and ace it, but if they are in a room full of people and is quiet, or they hear little taps or ticks or whatever, then it fully throws them off their mind. So I think that on the K through 12 level, it could really progress students and get them to newer levels faster, or pace them where they need to go. So some students, because as teachers, we have to really think about keeping a steady pace in our learning, like going through modules or lessons at a timely manner. And there are some people who aren't going to necessarily follow that timely manner, and we can't wait for everybody. And that kind of makes us feel bad because we know they're trying, but we also have to keep up with the rest of the class. And there's also students who go way faster than either me or my classroom or their fellow students, and they should be doing something else. So it's definitely an individualized thing, and sometimes that's a really good thing. Do you think it's appropriate for students to complete online learning, and what parameters should be in place? I feel like the parameters we have now are great. I mean, you follow the instructions, follow the policies, follow the rules, you get done in a timely manner, just like high school, any other school. You complete the requirements. That's just what you're supposed to do. I think the one like really beneficial aspect for like parameters, say, is sometimes people think, oh, they should be logged in by this certain time. Listen, I'm like every other human being where I have things to do. I have a job. I have other aspects in my life that I need to follow through. So if my class says I have to be on at 9 in the morning every morning, what if I work at 8 till 12, or 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.? That would kind of screw me over. So I think the parameter should be that they do it on their own timely manner. Now, due dates, those should have a strict deadline. Like, if I tell you a month in advance that this needs to be turned in and you're late, not going to work for me. But you don't have to clock into class every day like you do at work. And it kind of releases that stress, and it gives them responsibility to get their things done that they need to. Do you think it's appropriate for students to complete online learning? Yeah, I mean, it's learning. Any kind of learning is appropriate, and as long as they're retaining that knowledge, then it's appropriate. Do you think every state should require students to complete an online course prior to high school graduation? From when I graduated high school, yes, I come from more of a millennial aspect. I remember doing online things, but I don't remember taking a fully online course at all. So, but that was also then, and technology is booming by the day. So I think that's going to be an aspect in school as the years get bigger, because once you get to college, there's 10 times as more. So yeah, I think they should create at least a few online courses. There are math online courses and English online courses and math and arts online courses are all completely different. So yeah, maybe one, but if you take as many, because once you get to college, if you go to college, it's better to be well-rounded. However, they will also know that there are some learning management systems that are easier than others and harder than others. Blackboard, in my opinion, is harder than others, but that again is just my opinion. So yes, I believe they should they should complete an online course prior to high school graduation, especially as time goes on. Question 2, what did you learn most from the K-12 video? The K-12 video, I liked that it was very short, and it talked mainly, like, the number one thing I remember is the communication between student and teacher. There are so many problems with teachers and students where I'll send an email and I won't hear back for a week when they say, oh, the legal limit is like I can be 24 hours without replying to your email, or if it's at a time that's inexcusable, I'll email you in the morning, or however. There's always an instructor or a helper to help you along with whatever you need. And they also advise that you do another chapter or do another thing while you're waiting for a response. Now, sometimes math, for instance, you can't really move on to the next module until you figure out this module. So there's a little tweaking here and there. So the communication was a very big part, and there was an instructor who said they know more of their students online than they do in person, which you wouldn't think so, but because of the communication, they really have to get into their students' heads. And in person, they don't really, I mean, they need to, but they don't feel the need to all the time, if that makes sense. And what did you learn most from the Lawrence Virtual School brochure? It had detailed orientations on how their school is run. They need to be logged in. They need to have things turned in on time, like details. They advised families to go on vacation once a year, every February. I did like the $97 book fees and materials, all that you needed to pay, and there was no tuition. Tell a college student that, and they will jump for the hills. So I found that really interesting because there are a lot of people who struggle paying that yearly fee to enroll their kids. And maybe $97 is a lot, which it honestly is. But if it saves your kid or student from everything that they're enduring in a public school, private school, whatever, then maybe it's worth it. Describe your experience working in the learning management system. What did you choose to work with and why? I used Google Classroom because I'm familiar with Google. I wasn't really familiar with the Classroom until the last module where we did the training and it talked more about how to do things. And I created a discussion board. So I asked my students a question of who was the most influential artist of the Renaissance era. And so I'm going to be teaching art. I've said this pretty much every module reflection. And although I'm going to teach art, I need my students to know the history of the era that we're referencing to. So pop art has a specific time era. We see pop art every day. There's pop art on shirts, graphic designs. So everything from back then has left its mark here. And so the things we do today will impact us then. And we were impacted by things from the past. It's a whole cycle. So I want my kids to understand, not everything's right. Sometimes history books say this is the most important person. But then years later we find out that these tiny little people no one had ever heard about really made that influence. So I want to give my students the ability to explain, in their opinion, out of all the information that they read, who the most influential artist of the Renaissance era was. And I included the link and the access code below. I will definitely be using Google Classroom in the future. What did I not like about the system? I don't necessarily know if I didn't like anything or not. I'm still figuring it out. But that's with any new application. I guess wanting to know how my students are going to reply to the discussion board. Like, I posted the link and I looked, I'm like, ooh, how are they gonna respond to this? So I kind of had to log out and access my own thing on a whole different thing. And they can just add a comment, and that's the discussion board. So that works. So just figuring out little things. So I don't necessarily have anything I don't dislike yet. And how could I use this as an educator, future educator? Every way. I want to create a quiz, homework, activities, studying, anything. I can use it for so many different materials that will help my students outside of the classroom. I'm going to teach them a lot in the classroom, but when they go home, I want them to be able to retain it. And then the next class period, I want them to be clear and not have a lot of questions. I want them to talk it out and do that research, because although I'm great at my job, I may not know everything, and I may not know how to get that information to that student. So this is just another avenue on how they can learn. So yeah, I think that's it. Thanks.